That's everybody. Okay, just give them a few
Mm,
minutes to join in. They've been waiting for us for a while. Nobody. So, guys, okay, so everybody is here now. Awesome. Chime, Victoria, Ebere. Hi, everybody. Hi, hi, hi. So, you guys are welcome to another day in Design Week. And today we have Rusmir. I would try to, on a very good day, I would have tried to pronounce his surname, but I don't think I can do a good job of that. So, I'm not just going to try. Let's just have Rusmir. He's here. He's a Figma Lord. Um, I stumbled on Rosemary when I was looking for UI kits and design systems, and he has the best I've seen. It's called Brainstorming, guys. You guys should totally check it out. It's super awesome. It has like every single thing you need to make your design. Rosemary has more than 20 years of experience designing. I mean, that's a long time. I was a child, a very small child when he started designing. And today he's with us to talk to us about Figma. Figma is my favorite design tool. I'm sorry, okay? I know there's a lot of creative design tools out there, but you see Figma, it's just so, I think the one thing I love about Figma is how um it almost feels like somebody's listening to your thoughts. So sometimes you're using the Figma, you have a complaint in your head, and you're like, could there be an easier way to do this, or could there be a faster way? And next thing, there's an upgrade, there's an update, and voila, your problem is solved. It's so awesome. Like, I don't. Sometimes I'm like, I would honestly love to meet the designers at Figma because I'll need to tell them that they are doing an awesome job. I don't know how they do this, but it's super awesome. So Rosemary is here, and we're going to have a very different session from what we've been having so far. Obviously, Figma. I mean, you use it to design, so this is going to be a more visual session than any of the ones we've had before now. But before that, I'd just like to ask him well, three questions, which could be two or one, depending on how these things go. So, well, hi, Rosemary. I'm sorry. I'm just happy
Hi,
to have
Angel.
you here. That's
Hi,
all.
Angel.
Hi,
Yeah, thank you for
hi.
having me here, inviting.
You're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to do this. Really, it's so nice. Honestly, thank you. Thank you. So, my first question would be, so since you've been designing for 20 good years, why Figma? And have you used any other design tools? Sorry, hold
Why?
on. Sorry. Before you answer, I'm sorry. My mom just commented, "Hi, mom." Hi. Okay, so go ahead.
I mean, why Figma besides other tools? I mean, when you're working in the design field for the last 20 years, you're starting basically as a junior designer and you're starting with the tools that are available. In my time, there was a Adobe and there was a Corel Draw. So you start to work with the Corel and just to explore that kind of tool. And with the time, you basically when you're learning how to design, you're just using different tools. And Adobe was always there. And when Adobe has bought a Macromedia, they just brought the tool Adobe XD. In the meantime, there was a Sketch. So basically, we as a old school designers, we made a UI stuff basically with a Photoshop. And Photoshop evolved with the time. They give you a lot of new abilities like artboards and that kind of stuff. But imagine when you're working with on an app design and you have all kind of design in a one file. That file was 3 GB or 5 GB, and suddenly you forgot to save, or there's a power outage and that file was corrupt. So you can just show your design that you have worked on for the last couple of days or months, basically, if you don't have a backup, of course. But as I say, Sketch came at the right time, and I think a lot of UI designers who choose to work with the UI, especially with application with responsive design, switched to the Sketch, and Sketch gave us a great ability. But with the time, there was a competition from Adobe XD, and Adobe XD was lighter kind of software, was easy to use, especially for new people who came to this kind of job or just wanted to work with a UI or UX design. But there was some kind of limitation, like when you're building a design system, you cannot reuse a lot of stuff that you want to do. You cannot make your styles that you can reuse over and over. And as you know, Figma was uprising star on the market, and Dylan and his partner had a great idea just to make a great new web-based tool. You're not independent to work on any kind of system. You don't need a Mac or PC to work on that. With a sketch, you basically need to have a Mac in order to work. So there's no license for the PC, and that was a limitation for us. Adobe XD is basically Adobe package. You can work on a PC and on a Microsoft software system or a Mac Apple system. So that was basically good. But they have a web-based tool and work from wherever you want and don't have a limitation to have a PC, Mac or any kind of device just to work. So you can imagine you're on a vacation, you need to change something, you go to the internet cafe and change everything over your Chrome or Firefox browser in 5 minutes. That was something that I loved. So basically I started to use it about 4 years ago. And in my last company where I worked, we was a free guy, and we just choose that Figma is the best tool that we can benefit from in our daily workflow. And over the time, you can just see, and you mentioned it on the start, that Figma is a tool that brings every day a new feature, improves every day a new feature. And basically that's happening because they're listening to their customers. And if you compare the Figma with a sketch, Figma had a collaboration before the sketch. Figma had a cloud-based stuff basically from the start of the beginning of the work, and those are the things that are pros for our designers. Of course, there's always the cons, like if there's no internet, you cannot access to your file. But I think they will be basically improve that over the time as they're improving a lot of stuff. So I think my main goal was I have found a tool that fulfill my all kind of design needs at once. And we're currently in the company where I'm working, we also using Figma for different branding stuff, building the marketing design system where we use that in a daily job for building the social media posts and that kind of stuff. So it's not just tool for UI design based on an app design or any kind of design related to that kind of niche, but it's can be also used for making illustration. And a lot of great illustrators using Figma as an illustration tool. So I will not say it's a substitute for Illustrator, but I hope it will be in the future because there's a lot of great stuff that people are doing. So that was basically the reason. It gave me everything what I need in my daily workflow. So I don't need external or extra tools for my daily job. I have only one tool that fulfilled my whole needs. So yeah.
Okay, so how would you handle handoff though? Because I know that is typically a problem with design. So when you're done, how do you just? I've met developers that just give them the Figma link and they just go through it and they can figure it all out. But how do you handle that?
I mean, handoff is always the great question. How to hand off files? I mean, the way before we, as a designer, gave the design or hand off the design to the developers to make the app was basically either using the Avo code or Zeppelin or that kind of external tool. So basically, import your stuff, slice it in the small bits and parts, and give basically the developers the assets generated based on your design. Currently with the Figma, as I say, Figma is a great collaboration tool. So you have a two option. One is the editor, and we as a designers are basically having the editor rights just to throw everything, change everything. And when we give access to our developers, they have a view rights. They have I will say 50% of what we have ability to work with the Figma, and their needs are basically just to inspect the assets, export them, collect the values of particular is a text, depicted text sizes, the colors, the shadows, styles, whatever, and they can just decide what they need to do and just to export them. Of course, there's always limitation that you need to teach your developers how to do and how to work with the Figma Inspect tab and what kind of benefit they will get working on that. We have recently built, I will say, a tutorial for our developers, and we are the company about 160 people with management, leadership, and whatever. But I will say about 100 people working as a developers and backend developers and the rest of the stuff. So they need to know how to work with Figma, and Figma uh, gave us the ability to make one kind of tutorial for them as a prototype and just introduce and go through the files that we prepare for them as an exercise. And I will say our developers are working independently every day. We have a last request from them how to do that, because we made it in front a great preparation for them, and we teach them in front how to work. Each time when the new ability is coming, we're just showing them. We have open port session where we're showing from time to time the new stuff and introducing as a designer what we're doing and what kind of tools we're doing. So I think currently everybody are satisfied with the handoff what Figma offers basically to work for the developers, and we don't need external tools because it's a collaboration tool. You can jump in the file, we can be on a chat, we can be on a voice chat or call, we can just discuss and just show them where it needs to go. And as you know, the inspect tab offers you everything, even the variants of the components, showing you which variant is used and what are the properties of the variant. So I think that was our step, basically, just to help our developers to better understand the tool, which we basically working on a daily basis. So they're good familiar with that. And as I say, we solve a big problem just teaching them in front what is the Figma and how to work with that.
Okay, that's cool. So, what's your favorite Figma feature?
My favorite feature, auto layout. I work
Ha, it's serious.
I work 8 hours or 9 hours only with Figma daily. So besides my other stuff that I do, but currently we are building for our one client the whole kind of design system version 2, and we're just cleaning everything what we did in version 1. And when you're working with auto layout is really give you the ability to work with nested instances and using the empty slots, and basically that's my favorite tool. And I also love the scaling tool. I mean, they improved the K, so basically when you hit the keyboard, I mean the ladder on the keyboard, it stays currently always active. So that's something that is really good that I always love. But as I say, there are many other features. FigJam is really good. We
Yeah.
introduced it for our clients, our product managers, product owners. We gave them the ability with the imported design system library just to access to the components that we built for them for the applications. They can just brainstorm based on that. They pull it from the assets library and they just brainstorm based on that. So they don't need to go actually to the files. So I will say the FigJam is the second feature that Figma has brought to us, and we're using it a lot on a daily basis.
Okay. I've actually not tried out Fig Jam yet. I've not had well, mostly I've just not had any need to, but I hope to try it out very soon. So at this point, you can just go ahead and show us what you have prepared. I know I looked through it already and I love it, but every other person would want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the similar presentation that I use for our Figma community here in Bosnia, and also for our open port session in our company from time to time. But basically, the quick summary of the Figma. What is the Figma? Figma is basically, as I said or already told, is a web-based tool with real-time collaboration. Everybody can jump in the file. Everybody can work. They can do whatever they want, and basically they have a lot of different capabilities in as a one tool. Besides, so before Figma, you had a sketch with abstract, just a handoff. You have Envision, you have a craft, you have live share, and Zeppelin and the Dropbox as a cloud. Basically, Dropbox was a cloud tool where you can store your files and give them. And currently, what you can do with the Figma, you can prototype, you can comment on the design, live commenting on the design, developer handoff. You have a better version controlling. You can always roll back to the design from 10 or 15 days back, and just to see what you did, what are the improvements. As I say, the multiplayer collaboration, you can share it, you can have a components. Besides, Sketch had the symbols, Figma has a component, and you can also work with the constraints. You don't need external tools, external plugins for that kind of stuff. Of course, the good stuff is that Figma covers all bases with the features that we mentioned before. And it's really interesting how Figma can improve your daily workflow. Basically, Figma improved my daily workflow, I will say, for 70%. Basically, I just solve faster stuff that I needed with other tools before Figma. And there's a 4 fundamental improvements how we can work is basically we can iterate way faster in a real time with a real-time collaboration, because you can just jump in the file with other designers, other product owners, stakeholders, and just work on a file and be on a live call and just have that kind of real-time collaboration with them. The second one is our design process becomes more inclusive and seamless. That means that design file becomes a venue where everyone can meet up and share their thoughts and discuss about the design. So it's not just one person job. The second one was the transition from design to the code is likely to be faster and more consistent. That's basically what we have a talk about, the handoff and that kind of stuff. So you can just go and check the component, or it doesn't need to be component, element, button, whatever, and you can just see the properties and pick them, copy them, and just copy paste them to your development code software that you're using. And definitely our design system is being more flexible and easy to design with, because as I mentioned, Sketch had a symbols or still has a symbols, and Figma has a component. So the difference is that components are more flexible than the symbols, because in a Sketch you have a symbol, one symbol. Every time when you need to make a different variant, you need to make a new symbol. And currently what components are doing with introducing a new feature variant, you can basically have a different variants in one component. You can just work with your properties panel and just change whatever you want. And just to wrap up about that is basically, as I say, there's a ton of details that you end up discovering every time. When you're hovering on the right bottom part, there's a ask question. So when you click on that, the keyboard shortcuts are just popping up, and they're really interactive. So every time you just see something new. The stuff that Figma introduced this year and last year basically was the auto layout, and I mentioned that I work every day with him. Basically, auto layout lets you create dynamic frames that respond to your content. So imagine you have a button and you just type, on a small example, you just type, and that button's basically will automatically wider and wider based on the content that you type or amount of content. And we had some sorry, some example where you can use the auto layout. This basically the one example with a component card. We can just give a different option of auto layout. Either the component can be fixed width, the component can be hug content, or fill container. Has ability of a fill container. Basically, when you change the properties and when you resize the whole kind of auto layout based on a component, your component inside will align automatically based on your settings. You can use it with different options. Recently update on auto layout 2 version, they added separate paddings that you can use on a individual elements. Basically, you can add top, right, bottom, and left padding. They can be independently controlled. So imagine you, like in an example, you want to have 24 pixel top and bottom. You can just give that kind of padding to the elements, and they will definitely automatically apply to that kind of element. So you don't need to have separate components or variants built on that. The next one was basically adding the constraints. They just we had that ability before in auto layout 1, but in auto layout 2 they added more ability to the constraints, so you can just have them based, I don't know, align them to the center, to the left, top center, top left, bottom right, and they will respect what they will respect the properties on the individual elements that you gave them. There's also great ability that I use a lot is beside the what it calls beside the packet one, I use a lot of space between, because it calculates automatically the margins and paddings between the elements. And it's a good way, like an example, when you have a button navigation and stakeholder product manager decides to add another menu item, you can just pick that component and put it in the navbar, and it will automatically respect the paddings and margins between. There's a lot of different examples. We built some kind of settings menu where you can just pick your components, pick your list items. You can group them, you can give them individual paddings without the layout, and they will definitely respect everything what you're doing. I will share the link definitely in the chat so people can access to it. I'm not quite sure if I didn't give the share it later. It's a little bit longer than I love to see it. This is the one example for the navigation, but as I say, when I share the link, our audience can see it because we don't have too much time to go through every kind of examples. But quickly, we had different components. Based on those components, we wanted to try to build the responsive navigation for different device sizes, so you can just handle, you can hide whatever you want, you can make them auto-responsive, like a fill container or hugging container, giving them constraints to, for example, to logo to stay on the left side, then the second button to be on the right side, or the icon. So you can, as I say, play with outlet and do great stuff basically. The second thing that what they introduce is, and this is really helpful for people who build the design system, the variants. Variants are currently the new way to create, organize, and use the components. So before, we basically when we started to build the different variants of the component, for example, this is the button, and button needs to have different states, like default states, hover states, focus, and disable, or whatever. So basically, in the old way, you build 4 different components, and currently introducing the variants, you can have a one component with different states. What that means that you basically still have separate components, but you can control it. You can control it through the properties panel on the right side, which one component will be shown, and that's really great thing, because you will still have one component instead of 4 components, but you will still, inside that kind of component, you will have 4 different variants. So that means that less components will be in your design system, definitely. There was always the rumor, I mean, not the rumor, but there was a problem, and a lot of questions came up introducing the variants, how we can migrate from the old system to the new system. Basically, as I mentioned, that kind of way was really easy, because you have those states that you prepared before as individual components, and when you made your components of, doesn't matter, in this case is the button, you can just select them all and convert it to one component with the variants, but you need to give different properties, and in this case we have properties like primary button, primary with the icon, secondary with the icon. So you basically need to give one properties that calls either primary button or the secondary button as a type. Then you have second properties that calls probably states, and those states are default, hover, focus, disable. And there's the third states that you can, or the third properties that you can add, is basically defining where's the icon, on the left, on the right, both icons. So you can play with different properties based on your design, on your pre-made variant component or component variants. I don't know what exactly the right way is, or creating variants from the scratch, basically. As I mentioned in a example before, is the same one. So when you're building, you just starting to make one component, and then you duplicate, you change your properties, you give them whatever you want. Either you create a new variant based on a base component, and then change the properties like shadows, I don't know, the size of the fonts, the colors of the borders, based on your states. And as I said, the left column is basically the properties of the states, and then you have the another one that calls values, basically are they selected or not selected. I mean, this is the select one with the drop down. There's a lot of different ways to use variants. I mean, you can use the variants as a toggles, for example. Before, we needed different states for the toggles: disabled, muted, on, off. I don't know. And currently, building component variants, you can just pick from the left asset panel. You can pick your components. If you went through the properties panel on the right side, you can just choose the different values of your variants. In this case, we made basically two toggle sets, one for the platform that will be used on iOS, the second was the Android. Then we gave them the different states like pressed or disabled or whatever, and then we gave them the last property is called checked, and we use basically the Boolean values like true and false. You can use values that are built with a drop-down box. You can use the values, as I mentioned, as a Boolean value, yes and no, true and false, on and off, and basically most of that kind of value will be used for the toggles, checkbox, radio buttons, and those small controls basically. The next step that came is interactive components. Interactive components is still in a beta program. It's great stuff. So you can see this kind of movement. Those are basically the interactive components that I built as a one component. There's a lot of usage of interactive components. The mostly of them where they used are in the prototypes, so they will speed up your prototyping process. So imagine before we wanted to have this kind of radio button or
Sorry,
check.
sorry,
Yeah.
I just want to ask, what's the difference between an interactive component and a variant? Because I don't know. I've always thought they're like the same thing.
No, interactive components are basically so variant components are different states of the components. Imagine you, as I mentioned, you need to make a button, and there's a different states like unhover, like hover, stay, focus, pressed, whatever. So basically you needed 4 different components, and introducing the variant, you're grouping those 4 components in a one component, but you have a 4 different variation of use. And if you add properly the properties and the values of the of that kind of variant, so you can make a ton different use cases based on that kind of component. So that gives you the ability just to have one component instead of 4 components. And interactive components are basically, imagine in this case, what we're showing is you have a one group of checkboxes. And in an old way, you need probably 6-8 different screens just to prototype this kind of usage. In the interactive component, you basically need 2 different variants. The one is the off, and the second one is the check it. So when you this group basically is an interactive component built on those 2. So you can just do whatever you want. So before you needed this kind of state to prototype this, and today you just needed 2 variants of one component. So that's a huge improvement. It's the same with the toggle. You basically need toggle on, toggle off. Then you need some kind of different animation to make. So this is one example that I made for micro interaction file as a open file that I deliver on my community page. Before I needed different screens just to build that. And currently today I'm using one component that I just gave the interaction between them, what they need to do. So for example, when I hover over this, please show me this. When I click on this, please show me this kind. After some time limitation, please show me the error. So currently when you're hovering, it shows you the state. You're clicking, it does something in the background. The pulsing, the USB is pulsing, and then shows you the error. So this is the benefit of the interactive component. So you can basically make everything interactive basically. And this is a great example of a button. So currently this is the component that contains 3 different variants. So like off states, hover states, and click states. And underneath there's basically prototyping connection. So when I hover over this, please show me the hover state. And when I click on the button, please show me this one. So as you see, when I hover, it shows me the hover state. When I click, basically it gives me the third state. So everything happens in the one component. Before, you just needed a couple of more screens just to achieve this kind of interaction. So that's basically the benefit of interactive component. This is the same. Basically, you need two different variants just to achieve this kind of interaction. You need a couple of more just to need this one, or for example, this one. So basically, this one component with two different variants. And the best example, what you can do with interactive component, this is the prototype that Anthony Despazio made, one of the design advocate by the Figma, and I love it because you can see what interactive components can do. This is really like a game, and a lot of community people and a lot of designers in the Figma community made a lot of great games that you can play in the Figma. So those are basically the ability that interactive components give. And the next thing was the developer handoff that we mentioned on the start of this session, is basically how it was before. Before, you get a request from your people just to change something, and please prepare everything for our developers, and the whole kind of communication went through the emails, to the chats, to the Slack, whatever. And currently, as I mentioned, all those assets were scattered around different files, different folders. It was not manageable. A lot of people used Basecamp for storing their files, or Dropbox. So currently, what that process changed is basically design tools modernized this process and got more streamlined. That means that designers will often use separate tools like a Sapling before, or an Avocode or Vision. And today, using the Figma, you basically dismiss all those tools and just use one tool for collaboration and handoff. And since it's Figma as a browse-based tool, everyone can use it regardless of their operating system, or the currently place where they live, where they work, where they are. So that's the beauty of the Figma that I really love. And I had a couple of times where I had a quickly request, and using the new stuff, basically, I will fast forward because this will be in the presentation. Using this one today give me the ability to work through my mobile app and access all my files, all my prototypes, and change them on fly. So this is the new improvement that basically Figma gave us. But I will just go to the stuff as a new feature that Figma brought. And I mentioned it with the Fig Jam. I know probably you worked with the Miro a lot as a UX designer, UX product designer, and
Yeah.
we always loved Miro, but a lot of people in the community asked Figma just to do something, and they haven't heard our thoughts, and they made they introduced the Fig Jam by the last config. Fig Jam is basically, I will say, better than Miro. Is the great brainstorming tool, ideation whiteboard, where you can just invite people. You can brainstorm on everything. You have everything that you have in a Miro. And the good thing is you can go to your Figma files. Doesn't matter which file. You can just copy your design and paste your design. And based on that design, you can iterate the copy, the placement. You can embed your design system library and just give the ability to product designers and the product owners and the stockholders just to play with the new components that you introduced, and give them opportunity to test them. And that's a great thing. Besides the Fig Jam, they have also introduced the branching. Branching is something that comes from the development. We waited to get our license activated on our organization plan, because we had a big reorganization of our files, and benefit of branching was definitely that we currently can have the old files that we have worked on, and we can just make a branch of some file and improve something. And after we approve that by the stakeholders, the product owners, we can just merge it back, and everything what was in the main file will stay still on the same place, but it will be changed with improved design. You can always go to your archive
Oh,
branch and
wow.
just see whatever you did. So basically, it's the same way how the developers are working. They just making a branch, working on them. They're just pushing them to the review. If the code uh, has a pass the code review, everything is fine. They just merge everything back and they pull everything to the main branch. So this is something that gave us ability to redesign our whole, I will say, main files that we had, and a lot of great improvements on the design system, because currently the design system that we have, version 1, is still used by our files, but using the branching, we can just improve the components, and when we are satisfied, when we approved everything, we can just merge it back, and the old components will be updated with the new components. So you don't need to make
Wow.
new file. You can give the view rights
Yeah.
to your team. They can suggest to improve everything. Doesn't matter if they have view access, but they're still in an organization. They can you make a new branch based on that branch, gave their improvements on the design that they worked on, send us the message, we can review it, we can then merge it back to the branch, and then have all changes in one place. This is a really game changer that we waited
Yeah.
a lot. I mean, especially for the design system designer who are working on a daily basis. And as I mentioned, the mobile app, mobile Figma Mirror app had a lot of lags and problems in the past. They introduced by the config the new mobile app. So currently it was in a beta. I think it's still in a beta. They had a 10,000 beta invites shared on last April, I think, on a config. I use it a lot times when I'm outside of office, when I need to change something or to check something that designers made a prototype and just approve them, or just to give them a comment based on those changes. And the new ability is you can access to all your files. Basically, it's a mini Figma browser, I will say. Uh, so this is the great improvement that they did. I'm not quite sure when it comes out of beta. It should be soon. Also, the interactive and the branching are currently in a beta. Branching is, just to mention, available only on organization plan. It's not available on the normal team plans. They had their reason. I cannot remember what the reason was, but they probably had a great reason based what they did. The next thing what they introduced was audio. It still in a beta. Not quite sure when it comes out. When I say audio, you will have ability to go to your file and you will see some small microphone icon. You can just click and speak directly with the people who are working on a file. So the live collaboration basically steps 10 steps up. Basically, you don't need to use your Zoom call, you don't need to use your Google Meet or Teams or whatever. You can directly communicate with the people inside the file, and that's a great thing. So
Yeah.
couple of more tools that you don't need to use when you're working with a Figma daily. So I
Okay.
love it. I didn't apply because we don't have a needs. We are always on a Slack and on Teams, and we have a lot of daily calls. So this feature is not for us, but I assume definitely for a lot of different people. I think audio will be also available by the Figma Jam. I'm not quite sure. Don't get me on that. The next thing, what they improved, and I think everybody who was on a free plan has saw the changes. You had ability before to have 3 different projects and unlimited files inside the project. They just cut that ability off, but they gave you the one project, one file, but they gave you about 500 different users can collaborate on a file. And what we did last time with a Bosnia Figma meetup, we made a file. We invite the people just to collaborate, and basically, I see that small free plans great opportunity to use it on a small meetups, on presentations, or introducing something new to your team, but you don't want to work with your team account or organization account. But for promotional purposes, definitely I see that. I mean, with this 500 users, you have ability to have 100 editors and 400 viewers on a file, or otherwise I'm not quite sure, but 500 people definitely. And before, you can just host the 50 people if you have a hold the file inside the draft folder. So there was always small Figma hacks that we had, because every time when I add a new editor on my team, I need to pay $15 per seats, and that was really too much. I mean, you will not build at the same time, but at the end of the month. But imagine you have 100 people in a meetup, and 100 people are just collaborating at the end. You need to pay 1,500. So it's not cool. But I think this kind of
Hmm.
splitting the way, it's great for promotional purpose. And the thing that basically Dylan mentioned on the config is couple of statements, or two statements this way that I love, is design is music, not the monologue. And what he meant with that is basically when you design something, when you're doing alone, this is just a beat. So this is just the one beat of the music because you're working alone. But when you have a multiple people and they working together, they're collaborating, they're making the music, because everybody has his own value, has his own heart, love, touch, feeling, whatever you want to call it. And when multiple people working on a design, the product is basically the music. Like a good product is the music at the end, like a symphony. And that's something that I really love, and that kind of statement. And regarding the community, community was about 2 years in a beta, so you need to be invited to the community to work and share. And what means the community is the big place where each of us as a designer can make his own profile, give access to the files like UI kits, open resources, open design resources, tutorials, whatever you want, icons, so it doesn't matter. And by the start, when I start to work with the Figma, I got this invite to the community, and I provided a lot of stuff for free. You know that every designer lives from his work, and basically we are get paid to make a design. I gave everything what I did today for free. I gave I think Angel mentioned that at the beginning, the UI kit that contains 850 different components and different use cases that you can build, 18 different categories, design system UI kits, Instagram, social media UI kits, and that kind of stuff. And I really encourage everybody, if you have a Figma account, make your profile and just upload your work, what you do. Somebody out there will definitely benefit from your work, and it will help him to understand how the design is made, what kind of decision did you make making the design. And they can definitely learn from us, and I learned definitely from a lot of people. And I always say, give everything to the community back what community gave to you, because uh, we can take the courses, we can pay the course and learn everything. But if somebody is willing to mentor you or share you, in my time of 20-year experience, there was no mentorship, there was no people who wanted to give their knowledge to you, so you needed to learn everything. And I always say I will be lucky 20 if YouTube came 20 years ago, because today I will be fulfilled designer with everything, because you can learn a lot from the YouTube and everything what you can find on there. And recently there was a two things that they improved. The one was basically currently you can click on the frame name directly and just change the name of the frame. Before you just need to hit Command R and like regex and just to change the name, or go to the layers panel on the left and click on that layer and change the name. Currently they improved that, so you can just go to the frame, click once on the frame, and change the name instantly. So that's a great improvement, because when we're doing the design, we have a different kind of frames and copy of the frames, but nobody is paying attention to name them properly, and we end something that designers know, like version 1, version 1.1.2, 1.2.1, or whatever. And that's really the problem by the designers, the file naming. And the second one was basically the improvement of the prototypes. This is something that we currently have uh, used for our clients, because we have a lot of different use case flows in our files. And since we're working with a big consumer app that is used on a multiple products, basically the one design system is used on a web, on a dashboarding, on a consumer app, and so on. We made a lot of new prototypes basically in one file, and before we had different files for different prototypes because you cannot make a different use cases. And here you can make a new flow, you can make a different flow. So basically you can have one flow that calls happy path flow, the second flow calls use case flow, the worst case scenario. I don't know, your data is not valid, whatever. You can just hold it. And the good way is you can just describe what are the steps in the prototype, so you don't need to explain them. Everybody can read them from the left side, or you can use them as an annotation when you're holding the presentation for that. So, and as I mentioned, the last quote that Dylan stated is basically nothing great is made alone, and that means collaboration between the people. The community is the most important thing out there. um, I told Angel I really appreciate what she's doing with the design week, and I really encourage everybody to build their community. If they have ability, just get in touch with your local people who are designing, or who has a designer who has desire to learn the design or get into design. Help them out there. I know the time is really precious, but uh, I think we can just benefit to having more friends and more colleagues out there. And I know that there's a lot of great community groups. You can always go to the friends.figma.com and just choose your region and just join the group. Sarajevo or Bosnia has his own group. Our neighbors have also great groups. I know that Africa has a great groups. Enugu is the one. I'm not quite sure. Did you, Angel? I think you connected with the
Yes, I
people from
did.
Enugu. Yeah, so it's a great way to connect with the people, and just also you can connect through the Figma Slack channel. Or well, we can share the link. I will share the link in the comments. I think that will be the best way on a YouTube. Share the links. They will stay there forever, definitely. And you can just go and search and just join to the Slack channel group. There's about 10,000 people currently, or more. I think more than 10,000 people currently live in the Slack channel of the
Wow.
Figma, and they just talking on a daily basis. They just asking people, can you help me? How can I solve that? And trust me, about it doesn't take too long, probably 1 minute to 5 minutes in worst case, that people are just answering, helping the other people. And that's basically what is the community. So I think this statement, nothing great is made alone, is really great. So I will say thank you. And yeah, that is.
All right. Thank you so much. Honestly, so I was aware of some of these features, but I didn't know about some of the others you mentioned. And it's so I think I keep saying it. I just love. I think at this point, anytime I'm asked my favorite product, I always say Figma because I just love how they build things that we actually need. You know, the whole being able to name different prototype, different flows. It's something that I know. For a while, I stopped prototyping flows because I knew if I prototype this flow, I leave out some things, and I have to constantly toggle between
Yeah,
presenting the prototype
yeah,
and then presenting some screens that are not part of the prototype. And then it's kind of confusing when you're trying to explain it to people or maybe your project manager and stuff. So at a point, I just said, nah. So I just tried to arrange my screens according to the flow so that I can just press next and explain it. But when I heard yeah, I was doing that for a very long time. So when I heard about being able to rename first, I'm like, oh my god, this just solves my problem. Because
yeah,
what this simply means is that I could just arrange the flow, have a prototype for the different use cases, and then present them as
yes,
what they are. So this is what it looks like when the button or when you don't put anything in the input field. This is what it looks like when the input field has text in it. You know, just being
yeah,
able. I just love how they really think about us and try to really solve our problems. So at this point, I'm just going to say that anybody that has a question should just drop it in the comment section. I'm sure, or section. I think it's section. Section is. I'm sure that, a lot of you have questions for Rusmir, and he's here, and he would love to answer. Me, I don't have a lot of questions. Okay, I just have one at this moment. Well, this is probably unrelated, but I just wanted to ask. Can you use an iPad to do everything a laptop can do in Figma? Are there limitations?
Yeah, yes and no. There, I don't use iPad. Basically, I use my phone. I use I'm more on Android tablet, so there's no application, but you can open it your Figma through the Chrome browser or Firefox browser. Doesn't matter because it's web browse, so you don't need the app for that. I know there's also app for iPad. I'm not quite sure what is the name, but it's basically some kind of Figma simulator where you can just work with your pen and the same way that you're working with a mouse. Honestly, I don't use it. I stopped to draw a long time, but my best friend is the paper and the pen for low fidelity stuff. So I don't use it. You use any kind of other device to make that low fidelity design. But I know that a lot of people using it. I will Google or I will ask friends on a Figma Slack channel what is the name of the app so people can use it. There's a lot of different ways to use it. I mean, you since it's a web browser based, you can use it from every device that you want. Sometimes I'm just working on my Android phone and I just go to the figma.com and log with my accounts. But sometimes I forget there's a new mirror app. I can do everything what Figma can do on a whole on a big device. That sometimes, as I say, Figma mirror apps for me give me the ability to just jump in and see what our colleagues, designer colleagues, made if they have asked. And since we are always improving our products, we are just having release and new release every time when we pushing the new release. We're making the prototypes just for our archive and our stakeholders so they can just have the prototypes and present them. In the old way, what we did, and you mentioned it, this is the great new feature that they pushed. The old way, what we did, we had a one prototype card with different buttons, and we made a prototype flow. We copied the link, we linked the button, and we use it as a starting point on a mobile device. So basically, we we say this is the starting point, and you see that screen. You choose the use case flow, and you click it, and you go to the prototyping flow. The old way, what really pain in the ass, I will say, and sorry for my language, was that
No problem.
you're building a different prototyping flows, but every time, as you mentioned, you need to switch your starting point or saying to your stakeholder, just a second, I need to change my screen. Just a second, I need we had that kind of problems, and that's why we introduced those prototyping cards, because it was really easy just to click on the buttons and get that prototype. But introducing the flows is basically you're keeping everything in one file and you're building your use case prototypes. You just name them and you automatically have your starting point. And like a PowerPoint presentation or a keynote, you have your slides on the left. Basically, those are not the slides, those are the buttons or the flow buttons. And you just click and you finish one, you just present it, you click on the second one. Of course, there's a lot of bugs and lags. I think everybody has seen them. When you click on a one flow and then you go to the next flow, it just hangs. So you need to restart it. You need to hit your R key and just restart your prototype. I mean, those are the small bugs, and this is the feature that is currently introduced. There will be definitely new improvements. And recently, bugs that Figma has is basically you cannot swap your instances from your assets panel. I mean, it took only 2 days just to figure out where the problem is. I had my problems with my libraries. Yeah, I mean, I had since I started the community profile, I had a lot of comments, a lot of likes, a lot of downloads, and every time you get the notification, and that this is the known bug of a Figma for the last probably 1 year, I don't get any kind of notification. I mean, I don't bother to you know to get notification. I don't have anything from that. I love that people downloading my stuff, and I see my counter that always is rising. But this is the known bug, and it's not the priority. That's why they started the forum.figma or Figma, I think forum.figma.com, where you can just go and log in with your Figma account. You can ask, you can vote for the new features, you can suggest whatever you want to see in a Figma, and based on the priorities, they will see what is the voting list and how many votes are on each of those features or improvements, and they will build it. A lot of new stuff will come in the future. I mean, when we started to work with the Figma, there was only a couple of plugins. I mean, currently, when you go to the plugin list, you can see everything. Imagine you're just switching from this from the sketch to the Figma, and you used to use a lot of plugins like a craft or whatever, and they're currently available also in a Figma. You can use them, and I see a lot of great enthusiasts who are building the plugins, and they're just improving our daily workflow with the plugins. I personally use about 20 different plugins that helps me to design faster and to give everything. Imagine before you need to have a set of dummy data, you need to say, okay, I need a name. What is the name? Doesn't matter. John Doe, John Doe 1, John Doe 2, John Doe 3. And currently you have everything. You can generate all kind of data. You need the charts. You don't need to design them. Just say, I need a chart like this pie, arc, line, whatever, and he will create it for you. So this is great, that every time you find something new that definitely improve your daily workflow. And for me personally, I advocate Figma for a long time. I will definitely advocate for them long in the future, because I don't see that any tool is better than a Figma. Whatever Sketch wrote in the last couple of, I will say, the last 2 years, is basically copying the Figma. Collaboration, probably improving the symbols. Probably they will introduce also variants. Adobe XD. The only thing that I miss from Adobe XD is the repetitive grid. That's the thing that I would love to see in a Figma. Basically, you have a one component, you're building the list. I will say, I need 10 items. I just
Yeah,
throw it and I have it.
yeah,
And that's something that I'm voting for a long time in asking Figma just to bring it, because who is building products that using that kind of stuff will benefit definitely. We will, as a company who's working for our client and we use it daily, we will definitely benefit from that. So Angel is probably not there.
okay.
You're there?
Sorry. Yes, I am here. I have no idea what happened.
Probably too warm. I mean, here
Oh, yes.
is the hell. What we have, 27. Yeah.
Okay. So we have about 3 minutes to go. So
Mhm.
yeah, you were saying something.
Oof. I don't know what was the last word. I don't know. Use Figma. Advocate Figma. Don't use Sketch.
Okay, yes, we're talking about the repetitive grid in XD. That's
Yeah,
what we're talking about.
that's something that I really miss. That's the only thing that I will love to see brought in a Figma from the Adobe XD. I mean, I had a lot of problems. I was blocked by the product manager by Adobe XD because I once on a Twitter I told them your product is peep. You don't have the same ability as a Figma, and he blocked me immediately. I mean, that's not okay. I just have told him the truth, nothing else. I mean, and I also encourage everybody not just hang on a Figma. So every new designer who is starting to work in the UI UX field, try each of them. Try Sketch, try Adobe, try InVision, try Figma. Learn them, because it doesn't matter. Sometimes when in the future, doesn't matter where you work, you will work with those tools. But find the best tools that fits for your needs, that fulfill your daily needs, and learn them well, because you will grow with your knowledge if you learn more and more and adopt more and more knowledge. It's not just about the tools, it's just about everything. Learn those fundamentals about the designs, how they behave. I always say to my people who I mentor from time to time, don't use Netflix, don't use Spotify and recreate them. Use some kind of app that is that is good, that people benefit from them, but try to improve that app or just tear apart the design and learn how they made. Download the community files and see how the people made the stuff. In that case, you will learn, you will improve your flow. Don't copy the people. You just need to improve and found your own style. And every time when you're designing with the time, using your own style, people will recognize that. People will say, okay, this was made by Angel, this was made by Rusmir, because they will uh, see that kind of look and feel. I always say my designs have a soul. They have always something for me. And every time when I ship something and I don't work anymore on that or support anymore my clients, then I'm really sad, because I always from time to time go check check their website. If I made a website, check their website, check their app. Did they make improvements? It's the same. I mean, because you left something inside. You know, one part of you is inside that design that you made, and that's something that makes the design perfect. That's soul. I mean, the movie Soul is the right comparison to the design that I see. So that will be definitely something for me to give to the people out there.
All right. So seems like we do not have any questions from anybody. I feel like they're just trying to take it all in. And okay, well, let me check to be sure. So no questions so far. Ah, it's like all of you are Figma gods. So okay, oh. Well, so in the absence of any questions, uh, we're going to call it a day. Well, thank you so much, because there were a lot of features I didn't even know existed, and now I know. And I'm sure a lot
Yeah.
of people have the same reaction, because, um, yeah, do you use? Okay, there's a question from Elvis. He says, "Do you use a ready-made set of icons in your latest design system, or do you make them manually?"
Uh, Probably I don't. I mean, I use ready-made set of icons. I think feather icons are the most icons that I use in my UI kits and design system. My good friend Anton Lapko made a great UI kit recently. It's, I will say, a little bit pricey for beginners. It's about $50, but there's about don't hang on that. I think 3,500 different icons. Outline it, monochrome, chrome, color it. It really well made. So I think we will introduce that set of icons soon in our designs. Of course, there's individual license, team license, that kind of stuff. So people always pay attention on that, because, as I say, designers live from their work. Some people needs to earn money. Some people doesn't need to earn money. We always have that kind of wage and just decide what is free, what is premium. I know that I'm working on a dashboard design. It's one of the biggest my UI kits. I'm still working for last 2 years on that, and I'm struggling. Should I
Wow.
give it for free, or should I go to the premium? And last time when I spoke with my wife about the brainstorming design UI kit, I mean, you have 18 different categories. You can just pick the screens and build your app immediately. You don't need to change anything. And I told her, why didn't I price that UI kit for $1? I mean, I had about, I think, on a different website, I had over 20,000 downloads. On a
Wow.
community, I had almost 7,000 downloads. You know, and imagine
Wow.
when you earn $1 per download. So
Yeah.
it's a big money. But does money make us happy? I don't know. Me doesn't make. I need money for living, but it doesn't make me happy. I think my design and what I'm doing for last 20 years speaks for me. What my biggest love is, my family, and the design is my biggest love. So definitely, Elvis. I mean, I can share the link to the new icon kit. There's a small I think small beta file, but you can always buy it. Definitely, I I will recommend it, because it covers all states. And yes, not yes, the day before was Daniel, no, Angel. He made also the great held icon set. So you can download. I saw that icon set before I know about Daniel, because we in my last company we work on a health-centric consumer apps and about COVID apps, and we searched a lot of different icons and approaches. What is the best approach to use the icons? And I saw that kind of kit, and I can recommend that kit also. But there's a lot of UI kits. You can just go to the Figma community and just type icons UI kits. It will just give you a lot of different UI kits that you can use, and most of them are free. So just say thank you by liking their file, so people will benefit from the like also. Definitely.
Okay, sure. So thank you so much, Rusmir. Also, thank you, Elvis. Elvis says, great. Thanks for the whole design week.
Yeah.
Elvis, thank you. Everybody that has joined today, thank you so much. I'm sure you guys will watch this video because I definitely will. I'd love to go over everything you mentioned and then see if I could find more in-depth tutorials on them so I can totally try them out. I feel like interactive components is something I'm definitely going to try out as soon as possible. It looks very interesting. So thank you so much, Rosemary, for your time.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate you doing this. And honestly, I just want to say a huge thank you. You've been in on every single session, and even before now, every single time I reached out to you, you would reply me, you would encourage me, and I'm honestly grateful. Honestly, it's I don't know how do I say this? It's not every time that you find people who are very supportive, even when they don't know you and have no actual reason to be supportive of what you're doing, but you've been super supportive, and I really do appreciate. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh yes, and
Thank
by
you.
the way, I have to mention this, guys. He introduced me to the Figma community. I'm on the Slack group now, and it's all thanks to Rosemary. So yeah, and even the Figma community Enugu, still Rosemary. Yeah, I just had to say that. So thank you so much, Rosemary.
Thank you.
I really
Thank
do
you.
appreciate. Thank
Thank you
you.
for the lovely words. I mean, definitely, as I say, this is a great cause. I mean, we should always help our people, our colleagues, and doesn't matter how much year you experience have. I always say the year of experience doesn't reflect your knowledge. So I have currently 5 designers in my team. I have juniors, I have mid-level, I have senior level designers. Trust me, sometimes the junior has more knowledge on certain things that the senior, and that's basically what makes a great team. Everybody has his knowledge and everybody contributes, and that's the thing that builds a great team. So my 20 years of experience probably nothing to compare to somebody who is working 1 year on certain tools and knows it. I mean, I still learning, I still reading every day. That's something that build us up and just gave us the more and more knowledge. So thank you definitely for inviting me and for this great design week.
I really, honestly, I really do appreciate this. So, guys, you guys should remember tomorrow. Tomorrow is the last day, and we'll be talking about getting hired. Because I know at the end of the day, no matter how much you love what you do, you still need to pay bills. So that's the entire point of tomorrow. So don't miss it, and rewatch this video. Rewatch it. Honestly, you need
Yep.
to rewatch this video. This is a lot of knowledge from Rosemary, and I really do appreciate. Thank you so much, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. And bye,
Bye.
everyone.